good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gents. This is the boy Casanova from Orlando, Florida, on this awesome and international podcast, Good Wine and Great Laughs, the podcast for wine lovers, summer movies review, and hot topic discussion. Ladies and gents, I am Casanova, your host. If you are new to my YouTube channel, what I do here every Saturday morning, I have the wine of the day. Ladies and gents, I'm going to open this wine. I'm going to have some discussion. I got a lot to talk about this orange wine, ladies and gents. And after that, if it's the regular season, I have the topic of the day. I'm gonna play some videos while I'm drinking this wine, and then at the end, we're going to discuss. If it's during the month of June and July, that's the time that I do summer movies reviews. So any movies that come in the movie theaters, Apple TV, Netflix, Amazon Prime, or whatever, any new movies that are coming on those platforms in the movie theater, as well, of course, I will do a review about it. All right, so today is Saturday, August the 30th, 2025, and the weather here in Orlando, ladies and gents, is going to be mostly cloudy in the morning and thunderstorms later in the day. Highs of 88 degrees and lows of 74 degrees, ladies and gents. All right. Today is season 11, episode 5, ladies and gents. The topic is the poverty in America. I'd like to give credit to CNBC and CBS Evening News. All right. But before talk about the topic of the day, I got to talk about the wine of the day. Ladies and gents, last Saturday, I introduced you guys to the orange wine. I told about it, first time having, give some information about it. And I said I'm going to come and bring some more because I want to know the difference in the taste. On this one right here, that's from Austria, I gave a 7 as far my grade is concerned. Today you have 2. I got 2 more. One right here is Cortese from Italy, ladies and gents. And I already discussed about the sticker right here. So if you're new to my YouTube channel, do not know what I'm talking about, want to come to buy Italian wine, ladies and gents, I always look for the sticker right here. This first one is the DOCG, followed by the second one that's called the DOC. It's right here. You always see on the top, right here on this part of the bottle, the wine bottle, Italian wine only, for the record. The DOCG and the DOC. The DOCG is the number one related to the quality of the wine making, high standards, and the second one is DOC. So when I'm going to buy some Italian wine, I look for these 2 stickers, the DOCG first. If I cannot find any wine that have the DOCG, I go for the DOC. Unfortunately, this one doesn't have it, but I say it's orange wine. So let's try this one right here, and then we can discuss. And the second one is the amber wine, also another orange wine. And this is from Romania, ladies and gents. So let's talk about the first one. All right, show again the bottle. Cortese is, let me see, doesn't have right in the front. Bianco Terre Siciliane. So I believe this wine is a vegan friendly, ladies and gents, made with organic grapes. I believe this, say right here, the Cortese Bianco Terre Siciliane IGT owes its color to the prolonged maceration of the skins. Made from Isolia 80% and Zebibo 20%. This wine has excellent structure with pleasant acidity, spice aromas, and surprisingly fresh and fruit flavor. It's a vintage of 2023, and alcohol percent of this wine is 12% alcohol. Now, one thing that I explained before, but if you're new to my YouTube channel or if you do not know, the wine always, you need to air the wine, ladies and gents. Normally, when I have only one bottle, I use my traditional decanter. This is a bigger one, a little bit fancier. Now, if you are on the budget and don't want to spend money, there are other ways you can decanter your wine. You can find some of these. I got this for, I believe it was Dollar Tree for like $2 and some change. Walmart also, I think it was Walmart. I know I bought it from Dollar Tree, but I think I saw it at Walmart one time. okay, for the record. So, has the same purpose of all I need to do is air the wine. So I'm gonna put a little bit over here. All right. So basically, that's it. I have my wine glass over here. I like the color of this one better. They justice to the name, orange wine. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, it's called orange wine because the color has nothing to do with orange itself. I explained that before. I'm going to explain one more time. Okay? Okie dokie. On this particular one, got some cheese bread right here, Brazilian cheese bread. Ladies and gents, if you're looking for some sweetness on this particular wine, you're not going to find it. I would say, and it's interesting because there's a completely different taste about any regular white wine. And I will also give a 7 for this particular one. Okay, so now let me get another wine glass. Let me take another bite of my cheese bread. Get a new glass. I'm gonna switch around. And now, let's talk about the amber wine. Also another orange wine, but this here is for Romania. It say right here, made naturally, no added yeast or sulfur. Once again, the product of Romania. It stay right here, amber wine. The brand is called Solara. Amber wine is made by leaving the grape skins and seeds in contact with the pressed juice, creating a deeper amber-hued finish. The wine ferments naturally. Candied apricots on the note, precisely herbal, fresh fruits, but with a solid structure and full body. May contain naturally occurring sulfites. Alcohol percent of this one is 12.5, ladies and gents. So that's open. And another way that you can air your wine, ladies and gents, you can have one of those too. There's a portable one. If you love wine as I do, if I ever go to a restaurant and I buy a bottle of wine, I definitely have this with me so I can air my own wine. So we have basically 3 different options and many more to air your wine. You should always air your wine, ladies, because the flavors come out much better than you just pour straight into your glass. All right, so put my glass on. Now let me see what's the Romanian. Normally all the Romanian wines that I had in my life, I loved all of them. Get another second wine glass so don't mix the taste of one wine to another. Once again, now this one here has a light color, light orange color than the previous one. Okay. This one a little bit lighter on the taste, for in my personal opinion. But basically, I do not see too much difference between one to another. And the reason I decided to select different wine for different countries, because also regardless of the process is the same as far as the wine I make, but it make a difference on the altitude, the ground composition, and so many things that change the taste of the wine. For instance, you can have a bunch of Cabernet Sauvignon for different brands, different countries, and they are never ever going to taste the same. They have a difference. Like in my personal opinion, the Papi is the best Cabernet Sauvignon from Chile. That's the wine that I tried. Now maybe have some Cabernet Sauvignon that the bottle is $80, $70, $100, $200. Now it's outside my budget. So everything is my budget is $20 below. That's normally I thought to show, especially this economy right now, ladies and gents, and import products by like Brazilian products have doubled the price on everything that I try to get, for my Brazilian foods and drinks that I get here in Florida. So that's an example. So I try to get on the budget because I know everybody got bills to pay. We got to adjust to the reality of this country right now. So, and there's both bottles, all three bottles worth less than $20. All right, ladies and gents. So I'll be drinking the Romanian one here for today's episode. Get my decanter right here. So let's talk about the topic of the day. Ladies and gents, the topic of the day, poverty in America, ladies and gents. We're going to watch 3 videos that has to do with the past 6 months in America, what's happened in the economy, what's happened on the people, and all this change that rapidly is changed our lives, especially if you live from paycheck to paycheck, you're in the middle or lower class of society, you definitely struggle. Definitely. Everybody. I don't know one person that is in this category that says, I'm living my best life right now. That's a lie. Unless you're part of 1% of the society that got all of these benefits and tax cuts from this actual administration, you definitely live your life. Everybody else, if you do not fit that category, I know for sure you are struggling. You have to cut some stuff, make arrangements. That's exactly what's going on. So, enough talking. I got my popcorn right here, my Brazilian cheese bread. We're going to be eating, drinking while we talk about watching these videos together. And when I come back, I'll give you my 2 cents. Probably they have this one, half a bottle going to be empty. Because this drug is real, ladies and gents. It is showtime. Go.
63% of workers say they wouldn't be able to cover a $500 emergency expense.
Most people don't have $1,000 in the bank. Most people cannot handle a tire blowout, or they're going to put it on credit.
Americans now carry more than $1 trillion in credit card debt.
The official poverty measure in the U.S. today is based on calculations from the mid-1960s.
It's also a system that is pervasive in actually creating poverty situations.
Poverty leads to more anxiety, it leads to more stress, it leads to more health problems.
37.9 million. That's the number of Americans currently living in poverty, accounting for 11.6% of the total population. That's despite the fact that America ranks first as the richest nation in the world in terms of GDP.
The United States is known for having this great abundance, and at the same time, alongside that abundance, there is widespread poverty and economic insecurity.
Sometimes, You question, we're in the United States of America. How can the citizens be going through such a issue? We always boast that we're a superpower, that we are the richest in the world, and things just don't make sense.
Poverty in the U.S. had been steadily improving over the...
Scrum back, that's the website issue.
The past decade.
Sorry about that.
From a height of 48.8 million people living in poverty in 2013 to 34 million in 2019. That was until the pandemic changed its course.
COVID absolutely had a very deep impact on the access to employment and long-term employment for a number of families that were already vulnerable for various reasons.
Prior, it was myself and my two older brothers, along with my stepdad, that constantly worked to provide for everyone in the house. But after COVID-19 and the whole lockdown, we were laid off. And ever since then, we have had issues finding a job.
Poverty is expensive. About 11% of the federal budget, or $665 billion, goes to economic security programs. Child poverty alone is estimated to cost the U.S. over $1 trillion, based on the latest research from 2018.
There are also really high costs on an individual level. Poverty leads to more anxiety, it leads to more stress, it leads to more health problems, all kinds of things that amplify the effect of poverty.
The feelings that you would usually encounter when you're in this position is mostly depression. Why can't I find a job? Why are we in this situation? We're trying our best, and sometimes it's just falling back down on our face.
So how did poverty become such a big issue in the United States? And why is it so difficult to end it? Income inequality is one of the big reasons why the US suffers from such high rates of poverty. The income for the top 10% was more than 13 times higher than income at the bottom 10%, according to the US Census.
We, unfortunately, in the United States are at the very high end in terms of income inequality. And so what happens is when the distance gets further and further away, the rungs on the ladder get further away, and it's harder for people to climb those rungs out of poverty into the middle and to the upper class.
The pandemic has made inequality worse. The Gini Index, which measures the nation's income inequality, rose for the first time in a decade by 1.2% in 2021.
The reason the pandemic has made that worse is because when you talk to large organizations, corporations, what they saw was that staff was leaving, but they had a response to that, right? Their response was, let's give bonuses, let's give raises. Many organizations, many small businesses, government, they don't have that luxury. So inflation has kept up with the money that most people in the 1% have made, but it has deepened and widened the gap between those that have money and those that do not.
Research by MIT estimates that the living wage in the United States is $24.16 per hour for a family of four. But the federal minimum wage is set at $7.25 per hour. This means that...
Ladies and gentlemen, which sense does that make? Cost of living right now, for you to have a decent life, I'm not talking about you for you to be balling, it's just to survive. It's $24 an hour. But the minimum wage is $7.25. How expect people to live, to survive? I mean, that's 24 is to survive. To live, like I say, come on, man. Are you serious? It's ridiculous.
A typical family of four needs to work more than 2 full-time minimum wage jobs to earn a living wage. And single-parent families need to work significantly harder.
We worked at a banquet hall. Any sort of party, we would set it up, come early, set the tables, dishes, plates, silverware, everything, you name it. We worked for $15 an hour. It was really bad. I would say we were really overworked. 13-hour shifts sometimes. We were really frustrated with where we were, but at the same time, it was like, what do we do if we leave? We were at that stage of like, yeah, we hate this job, but we have to keep it to continue going.
problems with wages are especially worse for workers of certain races.
If we're looking at the broader population of people who are poor or low income, meaning one emergency away from being poor, we're talking about approximately 140 million people. Out of the 140 million, well over 70 million people, well over half of that population are people of color.
The U.S. also suffers from a lack of social safety nets that protect Americans from poverty.
If you look at, for example, the amount of cash that people might get if they're low income, it's very, very minimal.
Right now, we receive welfare, and it's roughly around $250 for my household of 7. And it actually has helped us a lot. Sometimes the numbers really don't make sense because how can a large family just live off a couple $100s, especially now in this day and age where you go to the grocery store, you spend in a few items $100.
Most countries, for example, European countries, have what's known as a child allowance, where if you have a child, you get a certain amount of monthly income to help raise that child. That's pretty common, but in the United States, we don't have anything like that. And in the United States, we don't have universal benefits, for example, healthcare or childcare.
It's also a system that many times is pervasive in actually creating poverty situations. So I'll give you an example. If I'm eligible for Medicaid today, and I'm also eligible for cash assistance, and I'm also eligible for SNAP, if I get a job that provides me even a little bit closer out of poverty, I lose all those benefits immediately, which means that I'm incentivized, if I need health care for my children, and I have a job that's not going to provide it right away, to not look for employment that is going to pay me an amount that's going to make me ineligible for certain benefits, right? So while people are working really hard for upward mobility, the systems that we have in place don't give them the grace to be able to come out of poverty and provide their own agency to actually create the opportunity for upward mobility.
The official poverty measure in the U.S. today is based on calculations from the mid-1960s. It's calculated by comparing pre-tax income against a threshold set at 3 times the cost of minimum diet in 1963. A large number of federal programs still rely on this measure to figure out who is eligible for assistance and welfare.
The researcher whose work became the basis of that measure never intended it to be used in the way that it currently is, both as a widespread measure of poverty, but then as the basis of all of these different social welfare programs and allocations of resources towards those programs.
It doesn't take certain very obvious indicators into consideration. To start, it looks at pre-tax income, which is not what I'm taking home every day, so that doesn't make sense. It also doesn't look at different family compositions, which absolutely impacts how a family may spend money. If I am the type of family that has both of my parents living with me, I'm going to spend more. It doesn't look at expenses around food or childcare. So in many ways, it's incredibly out of date because it has not kept up with the way life has changed for most Americans.
As a response to these criticisms, the Supplemental Poverty Measure was developed in 2011 as an improvement over the existing measure.
It incorporates into the measurement both the cost of basic needs like food, clothing, utilities, but also government transfers and programs. So we could see the effect of government programs in addressing poverty and economic insecurity. It also takes into account geographical differences. So the supplemental poverty threshold is more of a range depending on where you live, your household size, and what your housing status is. So it is more comprehensive. And in that way, it's an improvement on the official poverty measure.
But some experts argue that even the Supplemental Poverty Measure isn't a perfect method.
While it looked to close the gap on certain indicators that the original poverty measure was not taking into consideration, it did not go far enough. Food is one of those places where we are still not taking into account what food may cost in a state like New York versus a state like Mississippi. So if you have a universal brush for the whole country, you're going to miss a number of people that are either at risk of falling into poverty or are already technically living in poverty but are not counted by the measure.
The Census Bureau told CNBC that both the official poverty measure and the supplemental poverty measure provide a consistent data of poverty measurement, and that the Bureau continually strives to innovate and improve the design and measurement of their well-being statistics. This difficulty in measuring poverty has also led some experts to argue that poverty isn't as serious of an issue as it's made to believe.
Poverty in the United States, in the way it's normally understood, is not a big issue at all. It's deliberately miscounted, okay? So the reality is that we have poverty in the United States because the Census Bureau ignores the entire welfare state when it goes to count poverty. You count poverty by saying, well, a household has an income, say, less than $26,000 a year, but all the welfare benefits, or 95% of the welfare benefits, are not counted. They also undercount earnings by about 50%. Therefore, you have a lot of poverty basically because most of the resources that these folks have are not counted.
Unless we can get an accurate number of just how prevalent poverty is in the United States, attempting to eradicate it is close to impossible.
When we don't have those numbers, a lot of folks who are making policy decisions are flying blind. Whether I'm a large corporation that is looking to invest in an organization or in a city, or whether I am a public official that is trying to figure out how much SNAP is enough SNAP. If I don't have a baseline, there's no way I'm ever going to be solving the problem.
If COVID has proven anything, poverty is an issue that can be resolved with the right policy. Government assistance led to a significant decline in the supplemental poverty measure, lifting 45.4 million Americans out of poverty during the height of the pandemic.
Policy, I would say, is one of our strongest tools in fully addressing and eradicating poverty. It is where we can define what the problems are, accurately measure what the problems are, and then design and implement the programs we need to address the true extent of poverty.
Really good example that I'll use is that of the elderly. This is the one real success story in the United States, is we've really been able to reduce the poverty rates amongst the elderly as a result of primarily Social Security and Medicare. So if we didn't have those programs today, poverty rates for the elderly would go from about 10% to 40%. And that shows you the dramatic impact that government programs and policies can have on reducing poverty.
Figuring out a more accurate method of measuring poverty is a vital step in eradicating the issue.
I would begin with changing how we define and measure poverty to include the full extent of economic insecurity.
Another way of measuring poverty, and this is a way that European countries and other countries use, is what's known as a relative measure. And so they say, if you fall below 50% of median income, then we're going to count you in poverty. So if the median income was $70,000 and you fell below $35,000, you'd be counted as being in poverty.
More targeted social programs could also have a significant impact on the impoverished community.
Some of those programs may include an expanded child tax credit, the kind of which we saw in 2021 when it was expanded during the pandemic. Raising the minimum wage immediately to at least $15 an hour, but then moving towards a living wage, and guaranteeing that everybody who wants to work can work as a guaranteed ability and access to a good paying job.
I think a really straightforward solution that people have been talking about more recently is the idea of a universal basic income. So here the idea is that if poverty is a lack of income, then a very straightforward way is to transfer some income. Here's the analogy I would use to get people to shift their way of thinking, and it's the analogy of musical chairs. Let's say we have 10 people playing and 8 chairs available. Now, who's going to win and lose at that game? Well, if we focus on the individual level factors, people that were in a bad position when the music stopped and so on. But if we focus on the structure of the game, then 2 people are going to lose out regardless of the individual attributes. And that's what's going on here in the United States. We're focusing on people aren't working hard enough, they're not doing this, they're not doing that, when really the problem is that there aren't enough chairs in the game.
Exactly.
More than half of Americans with an income of $100,000 a year or higher say they're living paycheck to paycheck. This may be the result of a sneaky behavioral phenomenon called lifestyle creep.
Lifestyle creep is the common pattern of making a little more money and starting to spend a little bit more money. It happens almost automatically.
I think people hold these benchmarks in their mind. If I reach this position or I get this promotion or I make it to this age, then I can live this life, or then I deserve to have these things. And then they kind of go a little crazy or go a little wild on it. And then it becomes like a trade-off. Like they only can enjoy their present happiness and they're not able to save or plan for the future.
There's nothing wrong with wanting nice things. The mental, emotional reason why we want to acquire more is generally rooted in this need for like your perceived value. Like we live in a world where like the nicer car you drive, the higher your perceived value is.
6 out of every 10 people surveyed said that paying for everyday expenses negatively impacted their mental health.
It does take a lot of joy from just life and always being in this scarcity mindset when there isn't necessarily a scarcity to fear.
Here's why Americans feel like they're constantly struggling to keep their paycheck, even when they start making more money.
Say you get a new job and you have a little bit of a pay bump. Suddenly there's a little more room in your budget. Maybe you do some small upgrades, like you eat out rather than cook at home, or buy those Taylor Swift tickets, or upgrade your music subscriptions. Anything like that is an example of lifestyle creep. It's just these little upgrades that are very hard to undo financially or even psychologically once you've made them.
A lot of people have this scarcity mindset around money, and they spend so much of their lives saving. And so there can be this point where if you're constantly saving your whole life and then you finally reach this marker of financial success, or you finally reach this big paycheck number, you feel like you finally deserve to enjoy your life.
The idea that people save and they just hit a point where they feel like they deserve it, I fully disagree with that. Most people don't have $1,000 in the bank. Like most people cannot handle a tire blowout, or they're going to put it on credit. There's no financial literacy, no financial education that happens. The average person does not think about lifestyle inflation at all. I think it's something that's not even on the average person's radar.
Coming out of the pandemic, there was this strong desire to go out and splurge on experiences, maybe take a trip. This is often referred to as revenge spending or revenge travel. Research shows that young adults are particularly susceptible to this. They feel discouraged by higher prices and, making ends meet. So they might feel like they'll never have enough money to retire anyway. They might as well enjoy themselves now. Unlike perhaps their parents were, young adults need to be more responsible for their retirement because a lot of the safety nets that maybe their parents had, like a pension, no longer exist or are extremely rare. So they need to contribute to their own 401k if they want to shore up their financial security.
There's something about spending a little more than we should that can feel like rebellious or bad. And it often can be a reaction to our family culture around money, or parentified or internalized rules around what we can give ourselves. And some people might overspend as like revenge against these rules, and some might look at someone who's overspending and think and kind of label them as all bad or all good. And there can be a lot of guilt and anxiety around the consequences. Spending is a way for us to meet one need when another isn't met.
I was 19 years old when I entered my first corporate job. I was still figuring out how to adult as well as how to be in this, corporate world, make an income, which for sure led to overspending. I was sad, so I would shop. I was getting serotonin through shopping. And then that led to me accumulating over $30,000 of credit card debt. And I had to figure out how the heck I was going to pay that off.
When your spending is dictated by emotions or depriving yourself or holding back your needs, that's when it becomes problematic.
I generally like to think of lifestyle inflation in sort of 2 buckets. You have like your general idea of what lifestyle inflation is, which is the buying fancy cars, the buying nice things along those lines. And then there is lifestyle creep that's more like regular everyday things that if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're going without, like going to the dentist, getting oil changes on your car, right? There was a time in my life when oil change was just like not even a priority. Like I'm trying to keep tires on my car. I'm trying to keep it running. I'm trying to keep the registration paid. I'm not concerned about an oil change, right?
More than 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck as of September 2023. That, along with inflation, can have serious financial consequences. Many Americans also don't have emergency savings to fall back on. 63% of workers say they wouldn't be able to cover a $500 emergency expense.
You know, there's that saying, being poor is really expensive, because then when it is time to get basic maintenance on your car, it ends up being way more expensive than you were planning on it being because you haven't done basic maintenance.
And that can go well beyond car trouble. 46% of Americans said they have a balance on their credit card because of an emergency expense, according to a creditcards.com survey. 10% coming from car problems, 11% to cover unexpected medical bills, and 10% for home repairs.
Because of inflation and higher prices nearly across the board, people have been having a harder time making ends meet, and often that means turning to credit cards to fill in the gap between what you need to buy and what you can actually afford. Credit card rates are over 20%. That's the highest interest that you'll likely find anywhere unless you're getting a payday loan. Credit card debt can really spiral out of control and pretty quickly.
The solution to get what you need when you're in a position when you don't have it, it really is to just make more money. It sounds like a simple solution, but it also sounds like a condescending one, right? You tell somebody who is doing the best that they can that they need to make more money. The solution to make more money isn't really realistic.
Make more money.
The experts that I talked to said it's okay to treat yourself as long as you've built in a buffer in case something comes up. You want to be able to find that balance between enjoying your life and your emotional well-being and your financial well-being.
Marbrisa Flores describes herself as a recovering super saver.
I would describe a super saver as someone who maybe is now in a position where they do have some sort of income, some sort of stability, but it's a certain mindset that keeps you in scarcity mode and afraid to spend on things that you may need or want and kind of affect your lifestyle in that way. My way of saving it was to hoard it.
And the tough part is that saving for the sake of saving, it's not very reinforcing, but it can kind of be addictive, and there's momentum in that.
I wouldn't advise going to that extreme. It does take a lot of joy from just life and always being in this scarcity mindset when there isn't necessarily scarcity to fear. After working with a wealth coach, I continued to save because I was still very would put me at ease in that scarcity mindset. I felt at ease having my savings. I continued to save money, but in a more intentional way, with the intention being of spending it.
When you're in scarcity, you're feeling this anxiety. My first thing that I like to tell individuals is forgive yourself for what you've done in survival mode. I think I like to divide it between, what's essential, what's, an actual bill type of expense versus a lifestyle. What's a choice that you take on to spend money? For example, a choice to go out drinking and having fun, and there's also not the choice. You have to make that car payment. You also have to put gas in that car for it to go, right? So there's things that you can't avoid, and there's things that you have a choice to do, and you can adjust.
Value-based spending is what I teach, and it's where you sit down and you really evaluate, one, where am I spending my money right now, and am I being reactive or am I being proactive in that? Am I spending my money in places that really have value for me, or am I spending my money in places that I think I should be spending my money because of outside influences? And once you have an idea of where your money is going right now and looking at, am I aligned with this? Is this something that I actually value?
The goal here is to find balance. It's about finding ways to spend in the moment and also how you want to spend your money in the future. So it's about enjoying your life, but not being so focused in a future that hasn't come yet or too much focus on the present. The idea is having your cake and eating it too. You can have bites of your cake right now and then save some cake for later.
The U.S. economy has been on recession watch for months now, and so far, the all-important American consumer has been holding strong, keeping those recession forecasts from becoming true.
Consumer is still spending.
Consumer is in better shape. If they have money, they're going to spend it.
Consumers continuing to be resilient.
The consumer health has been resilient so far this year.
Consumer resilience is about to be tested. Americans now carry more than $1 trillion in credit card debt going into the holiday shopping season. The Federal Reserve's rate hikes have caused average interest rates for credit cards to spike to more than 22%. Rates on retail credit cards are even higher, nearing 29% on average. Despite this, the holiday season shows no signs of a slowdown, as each shopper is prepared to spend almost $900 on average this year, according to an NRF survey.
US consumers walking towards a cliff, basically.
The state of the consumer will be in focus in the post-holiday season, as economists will want to know, can American consumers handle racking up a record amount of credit card debt, and if it will lead into more delinquencies. This is the first time credit card debt has topped $1 trillion in America. That amount includes both revolving balances and balances paid off at the end of the billing cycle.
Consumers are increasingly reliant on credit cards to finance purchases of everyday goods and services, and that's because they're just getting a lot more expensive. At the same time, their wages are not increasing at the same pace as inflation. And that makes it more difficult because as the credit card balance increases, it can be more challenging for consumers to pay down that debt.
The excess savings that Americans lined their pockets with during the COVID-19 pandemic is largely now spent. High inflation and interest rates have made everything more expensive. Normal costs like groceries, gas, and housing are all rising. Add in the resumption of student loan repayments, and it's creating the perfect rising debt storm.
Americans are skipping out on some of their credit card payments because household budgets are squeezed due to higher borrowing costs.
Another factor for the rising debt is the increase of credit card users. More than 70 million new accounts have been opened since 2019. That year, 65% of Americans owned a credit card. And after a contraction in issuance due to the pandemic, the amount of Americans owning a credit card rose to 69% in 2023.
Credit cards can be like power tools. They could be really useful or they could be dangerous. It's all about how you use them.
Typically, after the holiday season, credit card debt levels drop as consumers pay down their shopping balances. But at the start of 2023, it remained unchanged, and now shoppers are prepared to spend even more than 2022.
Holiday shoppers do plan to spend more, according to a survey and the forecast done by the National Retail Federation. They found that people plan to spend about $40 more than they did last year, and that could be in part because of higher prices in some categories. There is still this deal-seeking mentality for items, and so that may mean that people are going to look for whatever is on sale, along with seeking newness.
Americans planning to flood the mall with their retail credit cards may be shocked when the bill comes, because those cards are carrying a higher interest rate than years prior. In fact, some are starting to rise to rates that only subprime borrowers see, rates exceeding 33%.
Some retailers have already noticed is that credit card delinquencies have ticked up, and that may mean that people are struggling to make payments and could again be a warning sign.
Big box retailers like Macy's and Nordstrom already flagged the slowdown of repayments on their credit cards over the summer, showcasing a potential risk to retail revenue this season. The average consumer has around a $6,000 credit card balance, $400 to $600 monthly student loan payment, high rent, and car loan payments. Americans may wonder if it's even possible to keep their heads afloat.
The best tip for credit card debt payoff actually is to get a 0% balance transfer card. So you move your existing high-cost debt to this new card with a 0% promotional rate.
Credit card balances saw the largest increase of all debt types this year, $45 billion. And compared to other debt types, credit cards typically hold the highest interest rates.
Any extra money should probably go to the credit card, just because that's likely to be your highest cost debt by a wide margin.
A boom for consumers may come from Congress's Capping Credit Card Interest Rates Act. If passed, the bill would cap APR for credit cards at 18%, prevent credit card companies from imposing new fees to evade the cap, and impose penalties on credit card companies that violate the cap. But all eyes are still on the Fed.
We're not really sure where the Federal Reserve is going to be taking interest rates next. If they continue to hike rates, it could be more difficult for borrowers to pay down the debt. If they reduce interest rates, however, it will take some pressure off consumers, and they might be able to start making more consistent payments and reduce those delinquency rates.
Many Americans, work can feel like a hamster wheel. No matter how hard they run, it never feels like enough. Americans, on average, say they would need $520,000 a year to feel rich. And the more people earn, the more they say they need to feel comfortable. Americans making under $50,000 felt they needed $157,000 a year to feel comfortable. Those making $100,000 or more said they would need $246,000.
When I was in middle school, a song came out called Mo Money, Mo Problems. And I think that that's true. Your problems scale. You still are dealing with a finite number every month. Your worries, your anxiety, your budget scales to that. You still are dealing with a ceiling.
About 14% of all U.S. households make $200,000 or more every year. But many of them, dubbed Henrys or high earners not rich yet, still don't feel rich. 62% of people with salaries over $300,000 a year struggle with credit card debt.
Earning doesn't actually make you feel rich, spending it does. If most people spent 99% of their paycheck, they'd feel quite rich. And it's the paradox here. When we're in accumulation mode, it's very difficult to feel rich.
It can be pretty easy for someone to feel like I'm making really good money, but I don't have a lot of discretionary income.
Earning more and feeling like you're still on a hamster wheel is what a lot of Henrys experience. And that's because they're not living within their means. They may have been living above their means when they weren't nearly making as much money, and now they're just continuing to add more and more and more.
I earn $300,000 and I live in New York City. I definitely don't feel rich. I feel very lucky, I feel privileged, but I do not feel rich. I could not stop working right now. I have more money anxiety almost now than I ever did in my 20s. I am on a hamster wheel and there's no question about it.
Henrys often don't feel rich compared to others. Many Henrys are cash rich and asset poor. So they're typically people under 40. They don't have childcare hours available. They're first-time home buyers in the housing market. They're paying off student loans early, hopefully. And their income usually hasn't hit a career peak. So they're very much in that not rich yet bucket, but they very well could be in the future.
Oh, I 100% feel like a Henry.
Maria Contreras was a professional composer, band leader, and pianist who started her virtual assistant business in 2016.
That year, I started to grow slowly and I was suddenly earning more money than I had ever earned in my life. And I think the number was something like $35,000 by the end of the year. And I went, wow, this is really great. I can grow this.
She then expanded into a digital marketing consulting agency during the pandemic.
For the calendar year of 2025, we're just on track to make 1.4 million. We're hoping to get to 1.5 or possibly even 1.6. I'm anticipating my owner's draw to be anywhere between 300,000 and 400,000. Had a pretty successful career as a musician through most of my 20s. The thing they don't tell you about having a career as a musician in music school is that you can be playing Carnegie Hall, which I was, and I was making $15,000 a year. And I didn't realize how much freedom money affords you. Now that I see the kind of freedom that somebody who earns what I do or even more has, that's my goal. That is absolutely what gets me out of bed in the morning.
A lot of the high earners, not rich yet, they're first generation wealth. So they still take their wealth into perspective against their family members or others in their community, and they realize how well they're doing. So they don't take it for granted. But I think what makes them feel not rich is we were told once you make six figures, all of your problems will go away. You'll just have so much excess. And I think we know that narrative is not true anymore.
I would have thought back then that the amount of money that I have in the bank right now, I would be rich. I would have just thought, oh yeah, she's made it, and I don't feel that way. I know that I am on a hamster wheel with my business. I actually really love the hamster wheel. I love what I do, but I also realize that I can't stop.
So Henrys often don't feel rich compared to others. They work very hard for their money, but they also spend a lot more than the average person.
In a lot of ways, Henrys may be victims of their zip codes.
$100,000 in LA is definitely very different than $100,000 in Iowa. Someone makes $200,000 a year in LA. They're going to probably take home $140-ish. Rent for a one bedroom is going to be at least $3,000. Their car payment's going to be $700. Car insurance is going to be maybe $200 a month. Gas is going to be $200 a month. If you were to annualize that, that's $50,000 right there. The remainder is for all the other things. We haven't eaten yet. We haven't purchased groceries. We haven't paid for subscriptions to Amazon and Netflix. We haven't gone on vacation yet. We haven't purchased clothes yet. It can whittle away your discretionary income if you're living in an area that has a high cost of living.
When my business started to grow, one of the first things that I started spending more money on right away was food, because I don't have time to cook. I had more money than time, and so I started eating Grubhub 3 meals a day most days. After that, it became rent, because I hit $1 million a year in revenue, and I said, that's it, I'm moving to Manhattan. And so my rent doubled, and I suddenly was paying $4,000 in rent. What is very worth it to me is to live where I want to live. I was proud that I could live here. For about a year, I would walk outside my apartment and just look around and just be like, oh my gosh, here I am. So that was lifestyle creep for me.
Lifestyle creep is the common phenomenon of spending a little more money as you earn more. It can happen to anyone at any income.
Lifestyle creep can really sneak up on you. You start earning more, and then you decide, well, I can buy more things. I need a second car. I need a bigger home. I need to go on this European vacation. I deserve this European vacation because I work hard for my money. The problem is, if you're not continuing to increase your savings at the same time, you are putting your financial future in jeopardy.
That shift happens everywhere in our lives, from the small purchases to the really big ones. Cars, houses, vacation, and most of these expenses are fixed.
Lifestyle creep impacts almost all tax brackets, but it can take different forms. One 2024 study found that when low and middle income households were given an additional $1,000, no strings attached, every month, their spending increased primarily on basic necessities, such as food, transportation, and rent. However, when higher income households were given the same $1,000, they increased spending on both necessities as well as discretionary expenses, like Marie did.
I spend more on my hair. I spend more on makeup. I get my lashes done. I get my nails done. I think it's just something that comes with the territory.
Birds of a feather tend to flock together, and their spending tends to be more aligned. If you make about $85,000, your friends probably also make about $85,000. So you're doing similar activities in the same economic bracket. Once you have friends that are making $200,000-$300,000 a year, your activities will change. The restaurants that you will eat at will differ and change. They're going to probably be a little bit more elevated. Your vacations are going to be more elevated. Your clothing is going to be more elevated. It's not necessarily spending irresponsibly, but they're spending aligned with their friend group and their community. That's why a lot of them oftentimes don't feel rich, because they're spending along with their friends.
Emotions are tied so tightly to what we do with our money. It happens to everyone. You get a raise, you're feeling great, you deserve to go out to dinner. In fact, you deserve to book that cruise. But the reality is that money was supposed to be earmarked for a bump up in your retirement savings, or money that you were going to put toward your child's education, or maybe you don't have an emergency fund, or at least not an adequate one, and the money should have gone there. When we allow ourselves to let our emotions overtake what we're doing with our money, we lose sight sometimes of what our goals are and how we have planned to meet them.
A Henry will sometimes look to the mega millionaires or the billionaires and wish that they had more, but it's really just that upwards comparison for more that keeps them stuck. More will never be enough at a certain point, and you have to decide what you have is ultimately enough and start appreciating all that you do have instead of fixating on all that you don't.
Experts say the best way for Henrys to start to feel rich and to get off the hamster wheel is by budgeting and planning for the future.
You can't really figure out if you're rich yet unless you know where you stand right now and where you want to go. You need to know your net worth. Doesn't matter how much money you have. It's not just for rich people. You have a net worth. What you own minus what you owe is your net worth. Everyone has one. Yours may be negative at this point, but you have to figure how to turn that around. Once you know your net worth, then you can start to build on what are your goals? What do I want to have in terms of my retirement savings, in terms of savings for college if you have children, in terms of emergency savings in case anything happens, how secure will I be? Once you have significant emergency savings, enough to cover, say, 6 months of your expenses or more, you're going to start to feel rich. Surveys have shown that financial well-being is tied closely to emergency saving. And so if you know that you're not going to have to whip out a credit card, that you're going to be able to pay for the roof that needs to be fixed or the car that breaks down, you're going to feel rich.
I think wealth is often an emotional feeling. It's a mindset to feel truly secure and not to have to worry about finances at all. Feeling rich, it can feel much more about the bottom line and the dollar amount. So one is more about the tangible number in your bank account, and the other more is a feeling. Most people aspire to reach a level of wealth where they don't have to stress or worry about their finances or even about the future generations, to know that there's a cushion there.
One of the things I focus on with my clients is a budget should be a representation of your values. The issue is you can't value everything. You have to prioritize it. And when people see the hard numbers of what they're spending on a monthly or annualized basis, and they see, oh my gosh, I'm spending $5,000 a year eating out, I will ask the question, are you enjoying those meals at $5,000? Is it bringing you that much excitement and that much joy? And most people will say, no, Camila, it's not. The food is okay. I'm doing it to be social. Well, we'll talk about other ways that you can be social without spending $5,000 a year eating out. You can't buy clothes consistently, travel consistently, eat out consistently. You have to pick maybe 1 or 2 things where you're going to focus your discretionary spending and then take that extra and rewrap that to savings. So you can start feeling rich.
Spending gives this immediate dopamine fix, and seeing wealth in an account with numbers and commas often can be far more satisfying, though we don't realize it in the moment. It's almost like the difference between an exciting, yet very toxic relationship versus a secure and stable long-term partner. I think the feeling of safety and the feeling that you can weather this long-term financial storm is far more satisfying, and we have to train ourselves to value that safety over the quick fix of a fancy car or a shiny new watch.
My advice for somebody who's on the hamster wheel is understanding the trade-off. I could get off the hamster wheel at any time, and I know that. And I know that my circumstances may change. For right now, this is the answer for me. My advice to somebody who's feeling that anxiety is understand that this is a choice. There are trade-offs. What I have learned is that I have been very burnt out and exhausted as a person who doesn't earn a lot of money, and I have been burned out and exhausted as a person who does earn a lot of money, and I would take being a person who's burned out and exhausted and has money any day of the week. I would rather do that than be burned out and tired and also worrying about my bills.
A recent CBS News poll, 2 out of 3 Americans told us they're stressed about their own finances. 3 out of 4 said their incomes are not keeping up with inflation. That's a lot of people struggling to make ends meet. And starting tonight in our series, The Cost of Living, you'll hear some of their stories in their own words. First, a single mother of 3, ages 1, 4, and 8, trying to make ends meet on a teacher's salary of $37,000.
Sweet, we're ready to rock. My name is Michelle Bourgeois. I am 37 years old. I am a teacher in St. Louis County, Minnesota. Since the price of eggs, bacon has gone up, we've done a lot more cereal. Eat it with your spoon. You gotta stay safe in the car, right? I've had to take on a second job just because everything has gotten so expensive. Hi, baby girl. I've been a teacher since about 2008. I love my brown shoes. I love my brown shoes. It's definitely not something that people go into for the money. They go into it because they love it, which is why so many of us do have to work 2 jobs to make ends meet. It takes multiple incomes to survive in this economy. I just left work and now I am going to go door dashing for a couple hours. It looks like our first delivery. We have to go to Burger King. Thank you. So this first one is $4.50 guaranteed, and then sometimes we get tips. I always grew up thinking about the stereotypical American dream where you own a house and you have a yard to play in, and I think that dream is dying. I try to make every dollar count. A lot of the time I'll just wait to feed myself until the end and then just eat whatever leftovers the kids.
Ladies and gentlemen, what a shame. A teacher that's supposed to educate the children of America now has to, beside her job as a teacher, now has to do DoorDash. How ridiculous does that look?
I'm in touch. Put your cute little bib on. A lot of the people making the decisions for us are wealthy, don't know what it's like to work two jobs, don't know what it's like to have to pay for gas with quarters, and yet they're making the decisions for us.
Exactly.
If they knew a little bit about the average person who is fighting every day to make ends meet, I think that maybe they would make decisions that were actually helpful for the average person. Good night, sister. Come here.
Here's the latest on inflation. The government reported today that in the past 12 months, prices rose just under 2.5%.
In our special series, The Cost of Living, Americans are sharing their struggles to make ends meet. Tonight, a rookie cop in Connecticut, married, 3 kids, household income $120,000, and looking to buy a house.
This is his story in his own words.
My name is Anthony Bartolini. I'm a police officer in Waterbury, Connecticut. I'm 29 years old. I've been a police officer about a year. Let's go. But every day is a struggle for me too. If I still have to worry about my next paycheck, where my next meal is coming from, I'm just like anybody else out there. Good morning, it's Officer Bartolini. I'm patrolling the streets because you want to make sure that if you see something, you can do something about it. Suspect 1. So I've been looking at houses pretty much every day. I wanted to buy one for a few years. To put 20% down on a house, that's a lot of money. Even I can't do it, working double shifts. In today's economy, even if I got a second job, I wouldn't be able to afford it.
How was your day?
Good. My wife Sarah and I were waiting for our daughter to get off the bus. We'll eat something real fast, then we'll go look at a couple homes.
Oh, there's a bone in here? There is, yes.
There is a bone, yep. We've been having trouble finding the right home because the bigger the house you want, the more expensive it gets. And we need the room for the family, the dogs. They need a yard to run around in.
Turn right on George Street.
I like the neighborhood. Seems quiet. There she is.
Hello, come on in.
We have 3 bedrooms on this level, 2 full baths.
It's a very nice house.
What price point are we looking at?
Probably around 300 to 325.
There has been a low supply, but there's still a demand. It's a very competitive market.
So it checked all the boxes, but too bad somebody put an offer in before we got here.
Oh, if it falls through, we'll come back and revisit it.
I love you.
You do get defeated knowing that homes are so expensive after looking today. I hope people in power, they change the price of things. There has to be a way to make everything go cheaper. There's no way they can just keep going up and up and up, because then people won't be able to live. It's just so expensive. No one will be able to afford anything.
Inflation has been moderating in recent months, but prices are still nearly 24% higher than at the start of the pandemic.
In our series, The Cost of Living, Americans are telling us about their struggles to make ends meet, and we conclude with a widow on Social Security. After rent, she has less than $200 to live on.
Here, kitty, 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 kitty.
My name is Olivia Marino Carlson. I'm 70 years old. I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I cannot afford to retire. I live off of Social Security, which does not pay all my bills. That's why I'm looking for work. My husband was a mechanic. He developed MS. I took care of him until he passed away. I was working retail, lifting boxes. It was very hard. I'm going to the library to use the internet to look for work. I did not think that being 70 would be like this. I'm asking if there's any positions or work positions available here.
We don't have anything open right now, but keep an eye on it.
I put in an application here at Walgreens. I haven't heard back, so I'm going to check to see what's going on. They don't have an update on my application. The cost of food has gone up. Every time I blink, it goes up. I get better prices here.
You're telling me $10.25?
This is where I have a Bible study.
We thank you so much for this evening.
There are times when I do feel like giving up, and coming to this group helps me continue on.
Good.
My greatest obstacle right now is being able to support myself. It is hard for me just to survive. I wish people in power would think more with their heart. It is hard for me to accept that I'm not able to enjoy the rest of my life because I have worked hard all my life.
And ladies and gents, as you watch with me these 3 videos, I always make a couple notes right there, okay? You know, it's ridiculous. I have nothing else to say. I'm going to start that. It's ridiculous, simply ridiculous. You know, the first video talk about, some employees right there that the people are struggling. And unfortunately, ladies and gents, you do have some employers that love to take advantage of employees because they can save more money, and that money's been saved, end up going get into their pockets, then take care of the people, the employees that do the job to make your business succeed. Just talk about last episode about the aviation industry, what happened to Air Canada and the fight of flight attendants to get the money that they deserve, do extra work. Meanwhile, the fat cats on top, the CEOs and his entourage, get all the money. You know what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen? So I was like, for instance, when they talk about, not part of there, they talk about people about being pro-life and all that. But a lot of people, especially some politicians that are pro-life, they are just concerned about the fetus, but once that fetus became a baby and the baby's born, excuse my language, fuck the baby. Because there's nothing that's going to be provided for the child to live on a good environment, that have everything they need for that child to succeed and be a healthy contributor to society. You know, I make another note right here. Like I say, pro-life people, but in the U.S., like the United States, is the only country that now, like I say, pro-life, no abortion, but as soon as baby is born, fuck the baby, basically. You know, there's no support for the child, for the family to now have better education, have some support, tax breaks to support the baby to eat well, to go to good schools. None of that doesn't exist in America. So another video talk about, the second video talk about, hang out with the friends. You know, I'm sorry, but friends do not pay my bills. You know, I was just a couple months ago, I was talking to my daughters about how to do a budget. You know, they are in the early 20s, and then I taught them what I do here in my household have a board with all my bills, my income coming, write it down on each paycheck to have twice a month or once a month or whatever your pay scale is, or every week. Break it down how much money is coming in, how much money is coming out. And at the end of the month, one thing that I learned, and I was doing this before, but as now I believe Michelle Obama and her brother have a podcast, and I believe on the episode that Barack Obama show up to be interviewed by them, I think it's Craig, his name. Michelle Obama's brother, I believe it's Craig, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. But he was talking about when his father was teaching him about a budget. The first thing to do is pay yourself when you get your pay. And then other bills falling in alignment. And how will you pay yourself? Like I say, put some money on your saving. And then you break down the bills. Because the essential of life, the bills are, in my personal experience and what I do, I make sure that the household bills are being taken care of, such as rent or mortgage, your light bill because you need electricity in the house, your car payment, your car insurance, and then after comes food because you need to eat. You need a roof on top of your head, you need a vehicle to go back and forth to work, that the car is working properly. Save some money because in case something happens in your car, you have some money to take care of the maintenance of that vehicle. Because it's another thing too, because a lot of people don't think about it. They are just focused on the monthly payment, and that's one thing I told my daughters. You pay attention, you have a car payment, or if you don't have a car payment at all, but you have to put some money on the side because it's going to get the time that you need to do an oil change. It's going to be a time they need to pay for a tire rotation. It's going to be a time they need the money to replace those tires. This is the maintenance of the vehicle that people don't put in consideration when they get a car payment, and to me, personally, it's a waste of money to buy a Maserati, to buy a Lexus, to buy a BMW, to buy a Mercedes, because a lot of people don't think about the cost of maintaining their car. Your car payment can be $800. That's the car payment itself, but you're not putting in consideration the maintenance of the vehicle. Oil change probably for that type of vehicle, the luxury vehicles, is going to cost you $250. A tire rotation is going to cost another $300. The older car gets, have the 5,000 recommended maintenance, the 10,000, the 15, and the longest get, the higher is going to be the cost for the maintenance of their vehicle. A lot of people don't think about that. I saw the family over there that has a pet, the police officer. They talk about, and like I say, it's a shame. Police officers supposed to protect and serve the community. Now is struggling, for his family, wife, and I believe was just one child. On that video, that's what my understanding was. Him, his wife, he had to do double shift to try to purchase a house. That's his budget, but unfortunately that his salary and his wife's salary combined cannot be able to afford a bigger house for them. And then they have pets too. And for those people that have pets, you guys know better than me. I don't have no pets. It's just me, myself, and I, and my wine bottles. Here at Casanova. That's what I got. Me, myself, and I, and my wine bottles. These are my pets right there on the wine racks all over this place. You know what I'm saying? But if you have a pet, I have a good friend of mine, that had a pet. That's years ago, about 3-4 years ago, that she told me that she had to take her dog to the vet, and whatever the dog needed was $5,000. So you have a child you need to feed, to clothe, and then you have a pet, and they have two dogs in the house. You know what I'm saying? And then the last video, it breaks my heart. This lady is 70 years old. Now that the husband passed away, she's a very limited income. She put application, but as bad as the economy is right now, as bad as the situation going on in this country right now, there's a lot of applications. So between whoever is the management people that are going through applications, see somebody that's 20 years old, I apply for the same position, and somebody's 70, who do you think they're going to give the job to? And it is a shame. It is a shame because you live on the country that brags to be the highest, the most rich country in the world, the best, and it's nuts. Let's be real. And if if you don't like here, leave. No, it's not like here, leave. You can do better to citizens, for the citizens. This country has enough money and has enough technology to provide a good living for everybody. Nobody should be struggling in America. Nobody. You got the technology. Like I said, when it comes to light bills, you have, like I said, Biden with this project that he had, was enough solar panel that could provide electricity to everybody in this country if we increase the number, and the cost would be even cheaper for everybody. But unfortunately, we live in a society that's a capitalist society that's about money, money, money. How much money can I make? You still can make money and still can take care of your citizens. But no, fuck the citizens. Let's make more money. Like I say, corporate greed. Fuck the employees. They're here. They got a job. They should be happy with the job they got. Let them work in 20, 18, 17 hours. Don't spend no money with their families. But we the fat cats that have no clue how the job is done, you make all the money. You know what I'm saying? It's simply ridiculous. So for these people, oh my gosh, we don't like here, live. No, it's not like I don't like here, live. I like here enough to put my contribution, and I want every citizen, from the children, from the womb to the tomb, that all citizens should be taken care of it. That provides everything for them to live a decent life, to live and to be a very good, positive contribution to society. Because if you take care of the citizens, if you take care of the child, provide good schools for them, provide good food that they need, like all do, provide basically everything so they can succeed. Because if they succeed, society succeed. Society succeed, the country succeed. So this is for everybody. But this mentality that, okay, fuck everybody, it's all about my money, the CEOs, and the stupidity of some people that believe that some people, they're going to have it so they can help themselves and make more money. Meanwhile, you're struggling. And one thing that I said before on my podcast, and I said again, politics is a necessary evil. You don't focus on politics, do not pay attention to your agenda, don't cry later. You don't vote, you don't participate, you don't do anything about it. It's going to be what's going on right now. It's a typical evidence. You have a black woman that's well qualified, that has plans to take care of this country for everybody, but some people decide, not me, some people decide to vote for a convicted felon that don't give a fuck about you. It's to just focus on his money, who gives more money for his campaign, but they really don't care about you. What happened? Like I said before, what happened to the price of eggs? That's supposed to be what happened in the wars. That should be done on day one. What happened with the Mexican wall? Mexico paid for the wall. Nothing but lies. Nothing but fucking lies. Meanwhile, farmers are being screwed. You know what I'm saying? Education is screwed. This scene now has got to be invaded by the military, National Guard. This piece of crap is talking about invading, Chicago and all the stuff. They already with that part of the okie dokie in Texas to eliminate, 5 districts that have black people involved and minority, black and brown people in minority. So, like I say, politics is very important, ladies and gents. So the way the situation right now, that you have to live by paycheck to check, and people, the waters keep rising. Now it's all up here, your nose. You can barely breathe. A lot of people working 17, 16, 18 hours. leave, like I told before in the last episode, leave at 5 o'clock in the morning, the crack of dawn, and just come back at 8 o'clock at night to wake up barely, exhausted, don't have time to spend time with the family, doesn't have time to live their lives, don't have time to rest. What kind of society is this? And meanwhile, all these cuts and all the benefits the government give is for the wealthy people because they are the one that influence and give money to the politicians' campaigns so they can give more money. Meanwhile, you're the ones being screwed left and right. Please tell me which sense does that make? If you have a common sense, which sense does that make? All this, look at the right states right now. The most people, the poverty, high level of poverty, red states. The low level education, red states. I was watching this video on the TikTok. I should save that video. I just look at it, but it's very interesting that this guy that was make probably a comment on somebody else's video. This was a white lady somewhere in the rural side of Arkansas that talk about Huckabee, that's the governor right there, that female that was press secretary in Trump's first term, and now she was talking about the roads here are terrible. Huckabee doesn't do anything about it. Now supermarkets being closed. I have to drive 2 hours to where I live to go to the next supermarket. 2 hours driving. Roads are terrible. Cell phone signals are terrible. Life is expensive. Education is terrible. The kids are not being educated. Look at all the red states. And they have the audacity to talk about they know how to govern. They know how to take care of the people. Don't believe me? Do yourself Google. See red states. What's going on in all red states? The red states are the one that's everything's negative. Violence, number of violence is higher on the crime, violence, poverty, infant mortality. All these are high levels. Then blue states. But you have the audacity to say, no, the Republicans know how to govern. Meanwhile, the populace, the population, screwed left and right. Finally, I'm watching off some town hall that finally people start waking up because they say they've been screwed by the Republicans that they vote for. That should take care of it. That's an old man, one of the town halls I saw on TikTok. That he said you need to take your head out of Trump's ass and make sure that you represent us. Because what you're doing kissing Trump's ass is not helping me. It's not helping my family. It's not helping everybody here that you're supposed to represent. So how long are you going to take that? How long are you going to be now in the back of the bus doing nothing, being quiet, not participate in the process because you're the one, or not you itself, my baby, your children. Think about your children, think about your grandchildren. Because the way society it is right now, and this man tried to, the 34 convict felony in the White House, tried to put the military everywhere, you're going back to dictatorship. Now your rights and everything else is going to be gone. And if you're quiet and don't say anything about it, do not complain about it. Just like the show, The Handmaid, something like that. Society's going to change, and there's going to be too late. They want to be a South Korea, going to be a Russia here in America. So it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The cost of living is ridiculous. Cost of rent right here, I told before. When I was looking for a new apartment, $1,800 for one bedroom. And what's the lower for $7.25 for minimum wage? So fine, if the states want to keep a minimum wage, they should have a cap on the cost of everything. You should not have no apartment. I don't care if they call luxury apartment. No, the rent should be no more than $800. There should be now $300 per bedroom. If the income, the minimum wage is $7.25, they should put a cap on the rent and the cost of everything too. And then you can keep a $7.25 minimum wage for everybody. Hello. You know what I'm saying, ladies and gents? So it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So you guys keep voting for these idiots that don't care about you. Don't complain about it. So then when hell breaks loose in your house, you can't afford anything about who you did vote for. Because at the end of the day, I say everything is connected to politics. And the state of America right now is related to politics. It's related to who's in charge. Don't believe what I say. You can do your own search. And you're going to see that every time that Republican is in the White House, now the deficits go high, sky high. Here comes a Democrat to clean the fucking house, just like Clinton did. And here came Bush after him, fucked everything up. And then came Obama on 2008 to clean the house crisis and fix everything else. And then you idiots decide to, instead of vote for Hillary Clinton, vote for this dumbass Trump. Shit hit the fan right now. And then he came as Biden and fixed a whole lot of shit again. And then your dumbass, instead of vote for Kamala Harris, that's about to the people to take care of everybody. But you're dumbass because being misogynistic, don't want a woman in charge, don't want a black woman in charge that can help you and provide everything for you, your family, and your next generation. Decide to put this criminal in the White House. Now hell break loose again. What the fuck? And he go, don't cry now. All Latinos for Trump, are you both deported? All this black for Trump, how many black people they put in his administration? Not one. You're a bunch of idiots. I say what I say. Don't like what I say. You don't have to watch my channel. But I'm telling nothing based on facts. So, all right, ladies and gents, on these notes, please be safe, be kind, and be blessed, and do the best what you can do, what you got. Salute. And I'll see you next time with another awesome podcast episode. The picture of the true wine bottles is going to be available on all my social media. So if you like this video, please do me a favor, click on the like button, click on the subscribe button, and send this video for at least 5 people you know. Salute, and I'll see you next Saturday. Holla!